in many areas, it's not clear because it could happen different ways. And until it happens, we won't know exactly which way it's going to be. And but we do know that Eliyahu Navi will come. We don't know the detail at which point he'll come. We know that Eliyahu Hanavi is part of that process. But he says that Eliyahu Navi is not coming to reveal to us some deep, dark secrets about people's lineage. Maybe something happened hundreds of years ago, and now as a result of that, there's some blemish in this person's family. The Rambam writes, I think that's where we were up to, that is a halacha in Torah, that any family, if they sort of intermingled with mainstream and to the point that it's already forgotten whatever happened in the past, halachically it becomes forgotten. That's the halacha. So therefore, Moshiach, Eliyahu Navi's purpose mainly going to be just to bring peace amongst parents and children, peace between families, but not anything else. That's his main purpose of coming. So now we're up to Dalet. So in this booklet, it's page 19, and we're doing Halacha Dalet of the Rambam. It starts off like this. The sages did not yearn for the Moshiach, the Yemesa Moshiach. I'm going to try to use more Hebrew terms because that's one of the goals here, that you should become familiar with the Hebrew Torah terms. So instead of saying the Messianic era, which makes a lot of people nervous, Messianic era, they just say Yemos HaMashiach, the time of Mashiach. And it's one of the things we have in our list. When it's called Yemos HaMashiach, it's number 3. It means the era of Mashiach, the time of Mashiach, which we'll soon see. We already saw that based on what the Rambam writes, it's very likely that we're already in that era, which the world has changed. But it says the sages did not yearn for Mashiach, the era of Mashiach, in order to have dominion over the entire world, to rule over the Gentiles, to be exalted by the nations, or to eat and drink and just celebrate. They had a much more meaningful reason and purpose why they were yearning for Mashiach. Before we go further, I want to stop here for a moment and focus on the word yearning for Mashiach. So remember, we said that the Rambam writes, and this is one of the first things we learn, that number one, we have to have belief in Mashiach that it can come any day. And number two, we also should be anticipating his coming. Here, the Rambam adds another word, a stronger word. We should be yearning for Mashiach. So if you turn to the booklet, which has the terms, I want to bring your attention to number 44. "44" in Hebrew is read, and we have the English transliteration, Tzipiso Yeshua. Really, it should be, and you could write it in your notes, just put a question mark after those two words. Who's asking the question? The Gemara says that when a person completes his life in this world and goes to Gan Eden and stands in front of the heavenly court, and they're sort of judging his life, one of the first questions they're going to ask him, did you yearn for Mashiach? Not only did you believe in Mashiach, did you yearn for him? Which means the yearning for Mashiach is a sign that I have the right perspective of what Yiddishkeit is all about, that I know that I want to have a life and live a life where Hashem is revealed and openly with him. We're going to elaborate on this more in probably in the Tuesday class, because there's a certain subject there that I want to go into, but I just want to mention it here because the Rambam writes, when you yearn for Mashiach. By the way, while you have this paper out, I want to point out a few things which we covered already, but it didn't mark it on your list. Remember, we said one of the contradictions are that in one source it says Mashiach will come like a poor person riding on a donkey. In another source it says he'll come riding on a cloud, right? So those two terms are also here. One of them is number 22, number 12. Number 12 is Anani Shmaya, which means, good morning, means the clouds of heaven. The Mashiach will come riding on a cloud. The other one, which is number 22, is Ani. Ani means like a poor person, riding on a donkey. And remember, we explained that they're both true. It means, the Gemara says, he could either come this way or he can come the other way. If we merit, he'll come one way. And if not, we don't have big enough merit, he'll come anyway, but it'll be in a more simple way. It won't be in so much drama connected to it. So that's these are the two things that we covered. Another thing which we didn't mark off was we had a whole class about the shofar. That it says Moshiach come and blow a shofar, and we explained that it means that something will happen in the world that'll shake up Yidden all over the world to become more aware of Hashem and closer to Hashem, and that's number 37. 37 is the quote from the pasuk, Yitaka b'shofar gadol. He will blow a big shofar. And why does it say a big shofar? What's the difference between a small shofar and a big shofar? Very simple. It means there's a shofar that makes a loud sound, and there's a shofar that makes a sound which is not so loud. The difference is very simple. If it's louder, it reaches people that are further away. This shofar that Hashem is going to blow, so to speak, before Mashiach comes, is going to be so loud that it's going to reach all Jews no matter where they are, no matter how dispersed they are, which means no matter how far they are geographically, even if they're living in some faraway islands, and no matter how far they are spiritually, the shofar will reach them. That's what it means. Shofar gadol, a big shofar. So that was another thing which we covered. And anything else that we covered that I didn't mark off? Let's see. No. Okay. What's 31? No. Now we're doing now. So let's go back to the Rambam. The Rambam says that the reason why the sages used to yearn for Mashiach was not because there'll be a lot of food, there'll be a lot of good times, we'll be able to celebrate, or that we'll be up there and all the nations in the world will look up to us. But the reason is, we should be free to study Torah without any pressures or disturbances. Right now, since the Beis Mikdash was destroyed, Jews still continue to study Torah, but it's under circumstances where we're being persecuted, we're being pressured, we have to hide, or sometimes, even if we don't have to hide, it still has to be limited. But when Mashiach comes, in that time, there won't be any of this. We'll have all the freedom to study Torah, to do mitzvahs, which is, by the way, we're already, like I told you, experiencing that to some degree. The way we have the freedom now in most of the free countries of the world, Jews did not enjoy this kind of freedom in the last sort of 2,000 years. If you go back a little bit in history, Jews lived in ghettos. Jews always had extra taxes that they had to pay. Jews had certain limitations. They couldn't do this job. They couldn't live in these cities. All sorts of restrictions in Europe, the way it used to be. And by the way, even here in our lovely America, there was a time where there were signs that it was legally okay, where it said no Jews, no blacks, no dogs are allowed in this building or in this business or in this school. And it's not that many years that all these things stopped. So basically, Geulah is a time where we learn Torah and do mitzvahs, but with a lot of pressure, and we didn't have the total, complete peace of mind. When this time comes, we'll have that peace of mind. And then he adds, Kadei sheyisku l'chayil haba. So then we'll be able to merit the world to come, as will be explained later in the laws of Tshuva.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
It's written, לא נתעבו החכמים והנביאים ימות משיח. refer to the Nevi'im and the Chachamim. But what about us, like the Pshutei Am?
So that's what he's saying. And we're going to be talking about that. He's telling us that the Chachamim, the wise men, the scholars, the Nevi'im, that's why they were yearning for Mashiach. And what about us? So this is what I want to talk about. And that is, what if a person says, I'm yearning for Mashiach because people won't be sick? And we should learn a few more lines. Let's look at the next few lines. Look what it says. In that era, there'll be no famine, there won't be any hunger, there'll be no wars, there'll be no envy, people won't be envious and jealous of each other, no competition, there'll be so much good that'll flow in abundance, and all the delights in the world will be in abundance. So basically, people are saying, I want Mashiach to come, I won't have any financial problems, I won't have any health problems, not me, not my family members, not my friends, and only good things will happen. There won't be any wars, nothing will happen that's bad. Is there anything wrong with wanting Mashiach for that reason? Because a lot of people do have that motivation. We're thinking about that. So, actually, I remember reading articles. Some people love to write articles to criticize others. So the people reading articles criticizing those who are screaming, we want Mashiach, want Mashiach. Why do they want Mashiach? They want Mashiach because somebody's sick in the family, because they don't have any money, because they're suffering this way or that way. That's not the right reason. And you're supposed to want Mashiach for this reason, so you could learn Torah and do mitzvahs. But the truth is, we have a siddur. And every Jew is obligated to pray. And the Siddur is a text which are written by the prophets telling us what to say. And what do we say in the Siddur? We're asking Hashem in many places, please bring Moshiach. Please rebuild the third temple. Please bring us back to Eretz Yisrael. There's nowhere written that you're not allowed to say those words unless you're asking it for the right reasons. According to that article, it means before you open your mouth and say, I want Hashem to take me out of Geulah, I should first get to the place where all I care about is to learn better and daven better, and then I can ask for going out of Geulah. There's no such thing. Every Jew is told to ask for Mashiach, and that means that no matter what my motivation is, asking for Mashiach means that I believe in Hashem, that the time will come where everything will be good, physically and spiritually. And if I'm at a place where what's motivating me is because someone's sick or something else, that's also fine. That's number one. Number two, there's something deeper to this. There's a principle in Gemara used very often, and that is it's reference to Torah study, but it really applies to everything. A person is supposed to study Torah for the right reasons. What does the right reasons mean? What if a person studies Torah because I want to be a Torah scholar and get a lot of honor? People will honor me. That's not the right reason. What if I want to learn Torah because then I'll have authority and I'll be able to control other people with my Torah rulings? That's not the right reasons. What if a person studies Torah just because I enjoy it academically? I'm an academic and I love learning and I love science and I love math and I also love Torah. These are all not the right reasons. The right reason is to study Torah because through Torah we connect to Hashem. That's really the right reason. So what about a person that says, well, listen, I'm a regular guy. I don't have that motivation. So I should not study Torah or should I study anyway? Anyone familiar with what it says about this question? If someone learns Torah, they just enjoy the depth, they enjoy the logic, they enjoy the questions, they enjoy the answers. Should they say to themselves, well, that's not the right reason, so wait until you get to the place where you study Torah just for the real pure reason, but until then, don't study Torah. No. So in Gemara, this is the quote, it's a Hebrew quote, but the words are, La'olam yilmad adam shelo lishma. person should study Torah even if it's not for the right reasons. Why? Mitoich sheloi lishma bo lishma. Which means if you study it for other reasons, ultimately you'll get to study it for the right reasons. You understand? Okay. So in other words, just to use an example, you want children to be excited about Shabbos, but they don't understand Shabbos from a more spiritual perspective. But you buy treats on Shabbos, you buy them toys to play with on Shabbos, you give them a good time, and they're looking forward every week to Shabbos. But is that the reason why to look forward to Shabbos? They'll get a lot of popcorn and potato chips and a Coke also. Looking forward to Shabbos because it's something a very holy day. But children can't relate to that. So we get them excited for a reason that they can relate to. But ultimately, from there, they'll graduate to the next level. They're going to start appreciating Shabbos for the right reasons. So the same applies to us with everything. And therefore, the same would apply to Mashiach. If I'm not in a place and I say, I'm yearning for Mashiach because of the spiritual gains, I'm yearning for Mashiach just because of the fact that in that time, there will be, everything will be good in a physical way. People won't be sick and there won't be any problems with A, B, C, and D. Nevertheless, from there, I'll get to the place where I'll be yearning for Mashiach for the right reasons. That's number one. But then there's another explanation which is deeper. To appreciate this, I just want to put the word down on the board so you'll see what I mean more clearly. Oh, there it is. Thank you. This is the Hebrew. Mitoch, which means from. Shalom, Lishma. Lishma, this word means for the right reasons. Lo Lishma means not for the right reasons. So from learning it for the not right reasons, but you will come Lishma. You will come to do it for the right reasons. Right? Got it? Right reason? Right, okay. So the Hasidus did explain something very beautiful, that this word has a deeper meaning. The word toch in Hebrew means inside. That when a person studies something, Torah, not for the right reasons, but inside, deep down, they're studying it for the right reasons. In other words, outwardly, yes, this is what's motivating me. But in reality, there's something much deeper that's going on, and that's in my neshama, that there's a part of my neshama which knows really the truth about Torah, and that's what's motivating me. So in other words, it's like we talk about many other things, that sometimes when we do something, and even though on the surface it looks like I'm doing it for, I gave an example, if you remember, Tishrei time, that it comes to Rosh Hashanah, and a lot of Jews who all year don't go to shul on Rosh Hashanah, all year they go on Rosh Hashanah, they go on Yom Kippur. And you ask them, how come you're going now when you don't go all year long? And they'll say, I don't know, my grandfather used to go to shul on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so I just feel I also like to go. But in Chassidus it explains, no, it's much deeper than that. Rosh Hashanah is a very holy day, more than any other day of the year, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the person's neshama feels it and is drawn to come to shul. Consciously in their mind, they're thinking, oh, my grandfather did it, or they have a beautiful cantor who's going to sing very nice, or some other reason, but that's sort of on the outside. Deep down, it's my neshama that's really pulling me in that direction. Sometimes you walk over to someone and you ask, would you like Shabbos candles? Look, what is Shabbos candles? I don't know. What is that all about? You explain to them, oh, it's something very nice thing, like candles. And they get excited about it. So on the surface, they might get excited about it for some sort of external reason. But the real reason is that neshama is excited because deep down, the neshama, the soul feels this is what Hashem wants, and the neshama wants to connect to that. So the same thing here. Even if a person is motivated and wants Mashiach because it's going to be so good financially, health-wise, family-wise, so much happiness, everyone will be getting along, and so on and so forth. But deep down, even when I'm wanting it for those reasons, deep down inside, I'm wanting it for the right reasons. So therefore, it doesn't really matter. And every person should have a desire for Mashiach to come. Try to do whatever you can for Mashiach to come. And whatever motivates me is perfectly acceptable because that's all interconnected. There's more to this. I'm going to wait a little bit later to explain it in one of the Tuesday classes, but this is the general idea. That in that time, there won't be any wars, there won't be any hunger, there won't be any jealousy, and there won't be any sickness. People will just it'll be a time of bliss, time of happiness. And therefore, we can't wait for that time to come. But on a deeper level, there's part of my neshama that wants that time because of the spiritual gains, the spiritual experience that we're going to have when that time comes. Any questions on what I just said? Yeah.
So I wonder something that whenever I ask like about the world and the answer in Hasidut is why like הקדוש ברוך הוא ברא את העולם כי הוא נתבע הקדוש ברוך הוא דירה התחתונים. And when I ask why, they tell there's no questions about the avot. Like we don't explain the avot. So I wonder how like he here explains the avot of the Chachamim and the
It's a very broad subject you brought up. But now the word tava really means a desire. It's actually a strong term, like a burning desire. So there are things that a person wants because it gives me pleasure. But sometimes we ask a question, why does this give you pleasure? What's the answer? I don't know. I just enjoy it. Why do you enjoy this color? Or why do you enjoy this food? Or why do you enjoy, some people enjoy traveling, some people enjoy staying put wherever they are. What's the difference? I don't know. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy these colors more than I can't stand the other color. There's no explanation. That's what it means, that type. So the fact that I want it has a reason. It gives me pleasure. Why does this give me pleasure? That we don't have an explanation. I mean, obviously it has something to do with me. There is an explanation to that, but as I keep going back further, but why? You'll end up.
And here he does have an explanation.
Right. It's giving me pleasure because it's going to be such a wonderful time. Right. This doesn't mean that every desire is not explainable. It just means there are certain things which we want, we have a good reason. If a person's in jail, they want to become free, they have a tava, they're yearning to go out free, and there's a good reason I want to be free, of course. And that's what they're saying. We want to be free without pressure to study Torah. Or I want to be healthy, and I want to be happy, and I want to have everything that I need, and I don't want any suffering and pain and tears. So basically, these are good reasons. When you heard that answer, that if a tithe, it's an expression in Yiddish, you don't ask questions why a person wants something, it means there are certain things, other things, which we can't explain why we want them, but it's just human nature, and every person has their desires, and that's the way it is.
And the Rambam like published it to all Israel in order to what, like to what we.
No, he's guiding us that we should also try to work on. Like I said, for wanting it for the ulterior motives, eventually we want it for the right reason. We should understand and appreciate that how spiritually it's going to be also a time of bliss, not just physically. But he's also letting us know that it's going to be a time where there won't be all the physical pressures that we have today.
This time that Moshiach will come.
This is the time which we call Yemot HaMashiach, the days of Mashiach.
The day before the Moshiach come or after
So, for example, right now, according to this, we're already partially in that process. Why? Like I said, it's the first time in history that yes, we live in a country. We're still not like it was in the days of Shlomo HaMelech. We had our own king, we had our own government. There is a government today, but the government is not doing things necessarily according to Torah. But imagine you have a government, and our government, and we have a king who's ruling everything according to Torah, and we're living a life according to Torah. So that's going to be when it's complete. But now we're in the process of getting to that place. Because even though we're living amongst the nations, but they're not persecuting us. They're allowing us to live freely with Torah and mitzvahs. And not only that, in many areas we get assistance from the government to do certain things that we want to do. You know, when you were here at Sukkot, and they blocked off all the streets so we can dance in the street. You could not imagine that in Spain, in France, in the olden days, in Russia and Poland. You know, we were afraid we can even do it in our shul. Forget about going in the streets, blocking off the traffic, that nobody could go through the streets so the Jews can dance. It would have been inconceivable in those days. So we're on the way. Now there's a line here that needs explanation, and we will explain it later, but I just want to make you aware of it. If you look again at the words that we just read, it says they want to be free without any pressure or disturbances, so they would merit the world to come. But this is the world to come. If we're talking about Moshiach, isn't that the world to come that we've always been talking about, that in the future? What does it mean? They want to study Torah without any disturbances, so they'll merit the world to come. If Moshiach comes and we have all these good things, that is the world to come. So the answer is, this is related to something else the Rambam writes, which we're going to learn after we finish this. And it's a big question amongst the rabbis. But the Rambam writes this according to his opinion. What's his opinion? We all know that when Mashiach comes, sort of the highlight or the highest point in that is going to be Tchias HaMesim, when all the dead will come back to life. How long will that period last? That all the souls will come back into their bodies, all the people that passed away in the past, and they'll be living in this world. For how long? So we're going to learn later that there are two opinions. One opinion is that it'll be forever, even though we can't imagine forever, but it'll be forever, eternity. The other opinion is, and that's the opinion of the Rambam, it'll be for a long period, perhaps hundreds of years. And after hundreds of years or more, then the neshama will leave the body, and then the neshama will have reward in a way which is so much greater because it's without the body, and it can have more reward. So the place to discuss it is really when we get to the next part. So I'm not going to talk about it here, but that's what the Rambam means. That during this time period, which is the first period, we're going to be able to study Torah, do mitzvahs, grow spiritually in such a way that will merit when the next period comes, which is the soul without the body, will be able to merit even more reward. Yes?
So we know this one neshama could be like another bodies in the life, but in the end, like when it will be one team, what would be like?
Right. So very good question. Very important question. Which neshama is going to come back? But I prepared that for the next class when we go into that part. If I do it now, I'm not going to have what to teach next time. So let's leave it when we get to the subject. Actually, when we talk about Tchias HaMesim, there's a lot to talk about. There's a whole reincarnation. There's a whole book on it, and we're going to cover a number of the subjects. So I want to do each thing in its time. Yeah, I told you this is like going on a highway, and then you get off on the exit, but you got to go back on the highway, otherwise you'll never get to your destination. So often we ask a question, we get off on the exit, we have to get back on the highway, but otherwise we'll get lost and forget where we're going. Yes.
Is there a belief when Mashiach comes that our yearning will still have yearning, or that our yearnings will be satisfied?
The yearning will be satisfied, but when Mashiach comes,
Unmet desire, not yet met desire.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. What does yearning mean? And someone's a desire, I said, not yet met desire.
No, we said before, tzipito liyeshua. It has to be what's the word, the right word for it? It's sapot, right? So once it happens, there's nothing but sapot, but it's not true. Because there are many, as Mashiach comes, we'll be constantly moving forwards, and there'll be more and more good happening, and will those be yearning and looking forward for the next era. That's even better. In Yiddish, there's an expression: if good is good, isn't better better? So as good as it's going to be, it's still going to be better. Okay. Then the Rambam goes, let's turn to the next page. All the pleasures of the world will be, in other words, there won't be any jealousy, there won't be any fighting, all these things, because all the good things you want will be available for every single person. And what will people be occupied with? The das is Hashem Bilvad. They'll be occupied with knowing Hashem. In other words, they'll be occupied with spiritual pursuits. Now, these words also mean not only Jews, but the whole world. You know, people always bring up the question, what will be with the nations of the world when Mashiach comes? And there's a big misconception that Mashiach is only for the Jewish people. Mashiach is going to be a change in the whole world for all the nations. And I don't know, sometimes we daven, we say the words, we don't necessarily even pay attention to what's coming out of our mouth. But there's one part of davening which we say actually 3 times a day. We say it for Shachris, we say it for Mincha, we say it for Ma'ariv, all 3 times. And that's at the end called Aleinu L'Shabeach. And in that prayer we say that when Mashiach comes, Hashem will get rid of all the idols, and all the nations of the world will accept Hashem's sovereignty. All the people, these I'm reading here, just reading the English, and all the people will call in your name. They will all recognize, their knees will bend to you. When they swear, will take an oath, it'll be by your name, and they will bow to you, and they will give honor to your glory, and they'll accept upon themselves your sovereignty, and you will rule over them. Who? This is all about the nations of the world. So clearly, when Mashiach comes, the nations of the world will also be that way, and that they will be pursuing mainly, spiritual things. I prepared this article. I'll give it out next time, but it's very interesting to see. We know how the world is now changing technologically, and especially what's coming up is artificial intelligence is like taking over, right? Mm-hmm. So there's articles written by Bill Gates, or who's the other guy that did the artificial intelligence? What's his name? No?
There's a lot. Steve Jobs. No.
No, the one that what? Musk, yeah. Both wrote an article that this is what they write, that AI is taking over, and people, it's going to come to a point where everything will be done by artificial intelligence. I'm just saying what they write. Everything will be done by artificial intelligence. And then people won't have to do all these things they're doing now in terms of work, preparing food, everything. So then what's going to happen? People are worried what's going to happen. So their answer was, in that time, people will probably get involved more in spiritual pursuits because everything physical will be taken care of. It's almost like taking word for word of what the Rambam writes. And by that saying, in other words, we're living in a time that the way the world is sort of moving forward is moving in a direction that all the Gashmizik things will be taken care of and will be pursuing more spiritual pursuits. Of course, right now it's hard to imagine how that would be, but this is what the Rambam writes, that the whole world will recognize Hashem, and the whole world will also be involved in spiritual pursuits. And the Fikach, at that time, Yisrael Chachamim Gedolim, the Jewish nation will be great sages, See, by saying those words, that means what he said before was not about the Jewish nation, but all nations. And we'll know hidden matters about Hashem. In other words, things that we never knew about Hashem will be revealed to us. We'll be able to understand our Creator as much as a human being could possibly understand. As it says, Kimola ha'oretz deis Hashem. This is a pasuk that's in the book of Isaiah, where it says that the whole world will be filled with knowledge of Hashem, kamayim layom echasim. Just like the water fills the ocean, that's how the world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. So the whole world will know Hashem. And this is very important to see how the Rambam defines what will be when Mashiach comes. And as we explained in one of the previous classes, that there's a long list of good things that are going to happen when Mashiach comes. But the essence of it is that Hashem will be revealed in the world. And we'll all be able to understand him, have understanding in his greatness. And that's what it means, that the world will be filled with knowledge of Hashem.
Can you explain that Kemal Lam Kassim?
Just like the ocean is filled with water, the ocean is a piece of land, but in this land it's full of water. So the whole world will be filled with Adat Hashem. In other words, generally speaking, Chachma water is always used as a metaphor for Torah, for Chachma, for wisdom, in many places, like in different places in Torah they use. So here too, it's being used as a metaphor. Just like water fills the ocean, this will also fill. I just want to add, and we'll have to talk about this more also. One of the questions people ask is, according to this, one of the most basic, important parts of Judaism will no longer be relevant when Mashiach comes. How could that be? Which part is that? Emunah. Right now, Emunah is one of the pillars of being a Jew. To have belief in Hashem, right? But if everything is revealed, and we could see and feel and see Hashem's presence everywhere, so there's no longer any emunah, no faith. You don't need faith. Everything's understood. We'll be able to perceive everything, just like we perceive things now in the physical, we'll be able to perceive things that are spiritual. So what's going to happen to this very strong, important part of Judaism, which is emunah? So the answer is, Hashem is infinite, which means as much as we'll understand Hashem on Sunday, there's still much more that we don't understand. And as we come to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that which we didn't understand Sunday, that's considered Amunah. Sunday, our level of understanding goes up to here. So that what we don't understand, we accept with faith. What happens on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when even that becomes revealed? Hashem is infinite. So there's more that's still not revealed, and that's where our Amunah will go towards that. Our faith will be in what we don't understand. And what happens after that? And the answer is no end. Hashem is infinite. And because he's infinite, no matter how much we understand, there's always more to understand. And every day or every time that we go through in life, as we're growing, we're learning more, we're being exposed to more, and there's what we know, and then there's what we don't know, and that's where the emunah comes into the picture. On one hand, you might say, "Oh, that sounds like we'll never get to the end." So the truth is, when we deal with other things, you might be concerned about never getting to the end. Here is the opposite: that will never be lacking. Sometimes people come to a point in their life where they're not motivated anymore because they reached a certain point of, I guess, the achievement. And now what? I remember once hearing on the radio, they were advertising this clinic. What's the clinic about? It's a clinic for people, young people that made millions of dollars very quick at a very young age. And now they're a little bit depressed because they don't have what to motivate them for. I mean, I would like to get their names and addresses and I'll tell them what they can do with their money. But they feel that, okay, you have a goal, you want to reach this, you reach the top, now what? when it comes to godliness and spirituality, there is no top. And it's not a thing that's a negative. Oh, there's no top, I'll never get to at the end. No, you will get tremendous pleasure from what you achieve, but you'll have excitement that there's more to go further and to grow. So just to complete the class with checking off one more thing on your list, and that is two more things. Number 31. 31 is the pasuk in the Tanakh where it says there won't be any more wars. Lo yisa goy al goy cher, which means one nation won't lift a sword against another nation. So when we say there won't be wars, it doesn't mean there won't be wars between Jews and other nations. It means, in general, there won't be wars in the world at all between one nation and the other. And the other one is 36. 36 are the words which are the last words of the Rambam. Umola ha'aretz deyes Hashem, and the earth will be filled with knowledge of Hashem. Okay, to be continued. Yes, a good Shabbos, everybody. Have a great Shabbos. Enjoy.
So, when I asked for,
Mariah's the one that's the one
I
who
said, I said, okay, when I go confident, and then I was in for 4 days, and I went to,
Tuesday,
so I asked tomorrow, it might be good to remind them. Because, what? So the other thing is that. Rush you. We just want to get this done before Shabbat. See? Becca's going to just want this done. You know, before Shabbat. No, I'm just saying it's okay. She's texting again. Yeah, I really don't like it. But. Right. Right.
Hey ladies, I made a little piece of paper for Philippine's birthday. You guys want to sign it? Okay, it's in the other classroom right now. I'm so confused. When does this class start?
Which class?
Rabbi Geulah. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I thought it starts at 12. I
12.
got it at 11.
Finish.
I got it at 11.